I said this would be a talk / workshop, so there'll be some practical elements, but also I'll just be talking as well. But let's start with something a bit more practical, so just a little experiment. I learned this recently, so I'm keen to try it out. So I'm just going to put a hand here at my shoulder level, and this represents kind of balance, yeah? So my hand here is showing some kind of balance. But also you can imagine there's a scale going up and a scale going down. And the higher up my hand goes, the more excited I am, whether that's positive or negative, but there's more going on for me, something a bit more active and energized going up in the scale. Anything below the hand is a feeling of slight dullness, sleepiness, feeling a bit flat. If it were to go even further, feeling heavy, feeling depressed, feeling stuck, frozen, yeah? But here at my shoulder level, this is balance. So at the moment for me, because I'm sat in front of you all, I'm not quite here, I'm somewhere up here. And because I'm mentioning it, maybe that's helping bring something a bit more down. So the invitation is for you just to put the hand at the shoulder, one of your hands at the shoulder level, and then just tune in and see where are you at. Maybe you've just been outside talking, having good conversation, and the energy is high and excited. Maybe you've come here, you've meditated, you feel a bit flat and sleepy. So just indicate with your hand, where are you currently at in terms of your energy level? Yeah. And yeah, some of you it's slightly moving. So as we do this and tune in, is there any modification that we need to make in the level of our hand? I'm just remembering I need to do it too. Okay, good. And then just bringing the hand down. Lucas can find his seat. So that's just tuning in, just starting to tune in. Where are we at? Where's our energy at? And I'll say a bit more about energy as we go on. Wherever we were at then, whether you were slightly high, slightly low, slightly balanced, let's just do another little experiment. So this time, the invitation is just to have a little look around, yeah? So we come back into the room and often we can have a bit of tunnel vision, focusing on what's going to happen next and the speaker. But there's all this space around us, so just have a little look around the room and see what you see. And there's all that space up as well, so you can have a little look up. Blue sky. Just notice what happens physically as you're doing this. Is there any shift happening? Okay, and then just coming back. So we'll explore a little bit more of that as we go on. I feel more present now. I don't know about you, but I feel a bit more present. And one way of talking about that, if we were going to use Buddhist, well, it's not quite Buddhist language, it's Triratna Buddhist language. You could say that what we just did was one way of finding what we call the gap. The gap. So if you were here a few weeks ago, I was giving a talk about the Wheel of Life, which is the big image on the red wall as you come into the Buddhist center. And on that wheel, there are all these stages around the edge, all these pictures around the edge, that represent what happens to human beings when they go around in the world. Yeah? So we go around in the world, we have all of these senses, hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, things happen in the mind. And senses come into contact with sense objects like other people, weather, images, dreams that come to us in our mind. And usually, or well, actually all the time, whenever that contact happens, there's some feeling tone which we would describe as being either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So we see a snowdrop. Lalita Ratna mentioned seeing snowdrops this week. You see the flower, there's contact, maybe it's pleasant, maybe it's unpleasant, maybe flowers are not your thing. Maybe you just you kind of see it, but you're not really interested in it. So we have these feeling tones to all of our experiences. And then what tends to happen is that once we have the pleasure, the unpleasant, or the neutral sensation, we either want to hold on to the pleasure, which we would describe as a kind of grasping, or with the unpleasant sensation, we want to push it away. With the neutral sensation, we're so uninterested in it that we kind of willfully block it out, and don't notice. And that creates this whole, what is described as a wheel of life, where we just keep having the same reactions and the same habitual patterns all the time. But the gap is the gap between the sensation, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and how we react to that. Do we follow the same old track and keep going around the wheel, or do we have the sensation and then do something more creative with it? So for me coming in to give the talk, and you all coming in and looking at me, it's mixed. It's partly pleasant, partly unpleasant, and I could go into all different reactions around that of, okay, right, I've got to give a really good talk now, or people are looking at me and I feel shy, so I'm just going to kind of collapse a bit and go into my shell, or I can do what we did and just look around a little bit, calm down, come into the gap, and maybe I can give a talk in a different kind of way. So all those, the opportunity to do that is with us all the time. So maybe we have a habitual way of listening to a talk as well. Maybe we don't have to listen in the same way and just breaking it up, looking around, and then there's something more present, something more active. Anyway, that's a long preamble to what I really want to say. Recap on the talk from last time. And the link is that what Buddhism offers is many ways to explore the gap, to find the gap in our experience and try to live more and more fully in that gap. Not going down the habitual routes, not suffering as much because of habitual habits and tendencies, but to find other creative responses to life and the stimuli of life. But it might be that we think, okay, great, Buddhism, the gap, now everything's fixed because now I just do the Buddhist things. And then I'm not in the wheel anymore and the reactions are not happening. And to some extent, that's true. It's like we found something that offers a tool to help us to do that. The problem is that we're so complex and so habitual that even Buddhism can become a way in which we express those old habitual patterns. So with all good intention, we learn to meditate, we learn about Buddhist ethics, we start to study what the Buddha taught, we put pictures of the Buddha around our room and around our apartment to remind us, and yet the same habits keep clicking in and taking over. So what I want to explore a little bit today is how do we also address that? Yeah? So how do we keep finding the creative response within a Buddhist practice? Yeah. And it's a good excuse to tell one of my favorite stories, which is an episode from the life of the Zen master Hakuin, who was born in the 17th century and was teaching in the early 18th century in Japan. Yeah. So let's start the story high up on a mountainside. Yeah. So I've never been to Japan. I'd love to go, but I have lots of images in my mind. So just imagine high up on the side of a mountain in Japan. If I remember the story correctly, it's the Shirakawa district, just outside Kyoto, up on the mountain. And Hakuin is there, and he's a young monk at this point, maybe in his late 20s, and he's out of breath. He's panting hard, he's taking hundreds of breaths, trying to recover himself because he's just had a hard climb. All day he's been climbing the side of the mountain. But he's got to where he wants to get to, which is a cave. Yeah, so he's on the outside of a cave, and there's a kind of grass or reed curtain covering the mouth of the cave. And like I said, he's had a long day coming up this mountainside. It started before dawn, back at his monastery in Kyoto, when he slipped out of the monastery in the night with a backpack and determined to find a hermit who lived somewhere in the countryside. He didn't know where, but he'd heard rumors that there was a hermit living on the side of the mountain, a master called Hakuin. So he left the monastery, he went out in search of Master Hakuin. He found his way to a tea house, and in the tea house he asked the people there, "Do you know where I can find the great famous Master Hakuin?" And the people in the tea house said, "Well, we've definitely heard of Master Hakuin. In fact, he's quite famous in these parts." He said he's said to be 370 years old. And he's said to have helped people in certain difficulties. So Hakuin thought, great, it's true. He exists. But, they said, you'll never find him. And he said, oh, why is that? And they said, you'll never find him because he doesn't want to be found. So apparently whenever anybody catches sight of him, he just runs away. So Hakuin says, well, sounds like a challenge. He's quite a determined character. Sounds like a challenge, I'm going to go and try and find him. Do you know whereabouts on the mountain he is? And the people in the tea house, they just pointed pretty much to the top and said, you see that little white thing? Yeah, that's a waterfall, probably somewhere near there. So I imagine Hakuin then had another green tea to get his energy up, and then he set off towards that little white speck high up in the mountain. And it wasn't long before he got completely lost. So he entered the forest, the trees, a mist descends, and he just realizes, I've got no idea now where I am and where I'm going. So he did what Buddhist monks do. He fell down on his knees and he started to recite a Buddhist sutra. That was the only thing he could think to do in this lost situation. Probably he recited the whole thing because he'd been doing this since he was a child. And when he stopped, miraculously, he started to hear the sound of somebody chopping wood. So he decided to go and follow the sound, listening out for the woodcutter. And eventually he found a clearing, and there was somebody there chopping wood. And he went over to them and he said, I'm looking for Master Hakuin. Do you know where I can find him in this mountainside? And the woodcutter just looked a bit puzzled and said, well, I've heard of him, but I don't think you'll ever find him because he doesn't want to be found. So Hakuin says, well, okay, just could you point me in the right direction? I was looking for this white thing and now I've got no idea where that is. And the woodcutter pointed again, this time to something a bit more like yellow colored and square. And he said, I think there's a cave up there. It's possible that you'll find Master Hakuin somewhere around there if he wants to be found. So Hakuin goes off, and at this point he's quite excited because he thinks this is it. But he loses his way again, there's no tracks. He has to tie his robe kind of up around his waist or something. He describes how there are jagged rocks everywhere, thorny bushes scratching all his legs. He's covered in thick, oily sweat. It starts to get so high up that there's frost and there's snow. But eventually, after many, many hours, he finds his way to the mouth of the cave, and that's where we started the story. So there he is, with this grass curtain outside the cave. By now he's caught his breath, and he's about to pull aside the grass curtain and peer into the cave. And sure enough, when he does that, it's a small area, maybe 5 feet squared, 2 or 3 meters squared. He looks in and he sees that there's somebody sat there. He looks old man, but alive and very kind of vital and energized. And he thinks, this must be him. I found Master Hakuin. But the person in the cave is just sat there, completely unmoving. And Hakuin says, Master Hakuin, I've come to find you and to ask your advice. I really need some help. And just keep sitting. Then all of a sudden, an eye opens. Just one. And takes a very hard look at Hakuin. And then just closes again. So Hakuin says, Master Hakuin, I really, really do need your help. Can you help me? Silence. So he thinks, well, I'm just going to go for it and tell him why I'm here. So he goes right back to the beginning of his life and tells Master Hakuin how, when he was a 7 or 8 year old boy, his mother, who was a very devout Buddhist, took him to a sermon in a meditation hall. And the Buddhist priest who was there giving the sermon was talking all about the 8 hot hells. And this poor 7-year-old kid was terrified by the description of the hell realms that are part of a whole Buddhist cosmology. And he thought, I've really got to become a Buddhist, because if this is what's going to happen, then I really need to learn another way. I need to learn how to be in the gap. He didn't say that, but we could translate it into those terms. So as a young boy, he enters a monastery and he becomes a monk. And because of his fear around this hell realm that has been described to him, he practices really, really hard. And in the Zen tradition, when you practice really, really hard, you practice really, really hard. Yeah? And other people make you practice really, really hard. And they have sticks and all kinds of things. Yeah? So he practices diligently all the time, reading sutras, learning long sutras by heart so that he can just recite them and say them. He learns meditation, but specifically he learns koan practice. So koan's been kind of teachings or phrases that don't make any rational sense. So the most famous one, or one of the most famous ones, there's a goose in a bottle. How did the goose get out the bottle? Or in the bottle? I don't know. What's the sound of one hand clapping? things like that. So he spends hours and hours trying to work on these koans and work out what the hell that means and how the hell is that a way to enlightenment. And he has some breakthroughs. So he's sitting, he's turning the koans over and over in his mind, and suddenly he has these visions of something amazing, where he feels very free, released, no longer suffering, and then it all closes up again. So he goes back to the koan, he's turning it over his mind, things open up, and then it closes down again. So he sees that there's this problem he has where things can open up and there is some vision, but he can't sustain it. He can't keep it alive. So then he goes around the monastery chopping wood, talking to people, but he realizes, I'm just as angry as I've always been. I just get as attached to things as I always have and possessive. It's not working. So it's not working for him, despite all this intensity. So what does he decide to do when it's not working? He thinks, right, I'm going to try even harder. So he describes how he clenched his teeth for a whole week and he decided, right, I'm just going to sit here and work on my koans. I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to sleep. I'm just going to grit my teeth and work out what one-hand clapping is. And then apparently within about a month of doing this, he described how that his heart fire began to rise upwards. All of his lungs were parched, emptied of their essential fluids. It's a very detailed description he gives of this. Lungs were emptied of the essential fluids. His hands and feet became like ice, and there was a constant buzzing in his ears. And basically he realized he was sick. Yeah. So apparently 2 years he spent then trying to find a remedy for what was going on. His own response was to keep pushing the koans, break through, cut through. But also he was visiting other teachers, trying to get extra teachings, how to make the real breakthrough. He was going to doctors, presumably traditional Chinese, Asian medicine, acupuncture, that kind of thing. But nothing was working. And then somebody said, oh, have you heard of Master Hakuin? So there's this Taoist guy, hermit, living up in the mountains. Apparently he's been good at curing people of similar things. And that's why Hakuin had set off on the journey. So he said all of this to Master Hakuin in the cave. That's why I'm here. He said, look, I'm really in a pickle. That's what we would say in English. I'm really in a state. I'm really in trouble. I've been suffering like this for 2 years. I just want to break through, and I can't. I don't know what to do. So maybe we just pause the story and just let the images of the story and the words of the story just sink in. And something of the emotion, because it's quite a strong example, isn't it? And maybe we can relate to elements of that story. So whether we have had physical pain in our life, whether we have really been inspired by something and wanting to achieve something and find a breakthrough into a new way of living, whether that's spiritually, whether it's in our working life, our relationships, just wanting something to happen, really, really wanting it to happen and pushing for it. How else can we relate to the story? Maybe the desperation, trying many things, many people, not getting what we need, and running from place to place and trying to find it. Yeah. So many ways we might find parallels. If in any way you can relate to the story, then you can relate to his emotional desire to be well. In the meditation earlier, we were wishing ourselves well, and he's obviously there, isn't he, trying to be well. So I can relate to the story in several ways. One of them is having had a lifelong habit of pushing. My energy goes forward. I want to do things and achieve things, and that's good. Yeah, that's not bad. The problem is for me that the way I've done that has often come at a cost. So whether that's been in my working life, trying to get an education, find a job, whether it's been in passions like music and learning instruments, there's been some kind of cost to pay for the way in which I've pursued those things with this kind of forward-pushing energy. And like I said at the beginning, one thing I've discovered over the years doing this whole Buddhism thing is that tendency of pushing forward didn't get left behind on the first stage of what we call the spiral path, where we come off that whole wheel of life and start to find an alternative. I brought aspects of the wheel with me, or I was pulled back onto the wheel. So I'm not going to claim that I was quite as hardcore as Hakuin, because he really was hardcore. But I've definitely pushed myself in my attempts to understand Buddhism and the Buddhist teaching. And like I said, that has at times come at a cost, particularly to my physical health. So there have been times where I've generated stress and tension in trying to do the right thing. Yeah. To the point where there have been times of dizziness, feeling dizzy, strange things going on in the heart, strange things going on in the neck and the throat where I'm holding tension. And a bit like Hakuin, I've looked around for remedies to that, whether within Buddhism itself or within Western medicine, within other medical traditions. And I've picked things up in different places that I think have been helpful. And I'm still doing that, still finding things. So when we get to the more practical things, I'll bring some of those in. But anyway, let's go back to Hakuin and his story. And if you can connect with something of his life and that kind of thwarted or disappointed ambition, or the search for some cure, some help, you can relate to that, then you will relate to his disappointment when he pours out his heart, tells Master Hakuin the whole story. And Master Hakuin, who's still just been sitting there with his eyes closed, he opens them and he says, "I'm just an old fool." He says, "I'm just an old fool. I live up here on the mountain. I eat wild berries. I talk to the mountain deer and the creatures." He said, "I know nothing of these things. I'm just an old fool, and I'm embarrassed because such a superior monk like you has come here asking help from a fool like me." Then he goes back, eyes closed, just sitting. So Hakuin feels his heart just sink. sinking right down into his feet, into the floor. And just when he thinks, this isn't the one, I'm going to have to go elsewhere, just as he's about to turn and walk away, suddenly a hand comes out and grasps onto Hakuin's arm really hard. This old 370-year-old fool suddenly has the power of an ox and grabs onto Hakuin's arm, gives him another hard stare. And then the other hand comes out and starts touching him around the belly. So you can imagine Hakuin, slightly terrified and not knowing what's going on. Then it continues. Master Hakuin is just poking away. And then he says, that's not what you want to hear, is it? Not much can be done. He said, you've been pushing yourself too hard in your koan practice and reflection, and you've been cutting off your vital energy. So not much can be done. So Hakuin's starting to get that sinking feeling again. And he says, I suppose there might be one or two things that would be helpful from what I call introspective meditation. Introspective meditation and the melting butter practice. And then he goes quiet again. And Hakuin says, oh, well, that sounds quite good. You mentioned this melting butter thing. Maybe that would help me. And then Master Hakuin goes a bit weird and he says things like, when you've hit the earth, it's from the earth that you need to rise yourself back up again. And he says something like, if you want to see more, you have to close the eyes. If you want to hear more, you have to stop listening for sound. If you want to recover the vital energies, then you need silence. And he says, the first thing you need to do is cut down on words and devote yourself to your primal energy. Cut down on words and devote yourself to your primal energy. So Hakuin's kind of taking that in. And then he says, yeah, but what was that thing about butter? He still likes the sound of that. And Master Hakuin says, yeah, the melting butter meditation. And then he describes it to him, how you imagine getting a block of butter, fresh butter, the size of a duck egg. And imagine that just being placed on the crown of the head. And then slowly melting down on the scalp, on the face, inside the head, through the neck, through the body, through the arms, down to the fingertips, through the hips, through the legs, all the way to the tips of the toes, bathing the inner organs. He says that is the melting butter meditation practice. So Hakuin takes that on. That's his main teaching from Master Hakuin, that he takes away and he blends that with the things he's already learned. So this koan practice, this really wanting to break through to truth, he begins to blend that with something much more grounded, much more based in his body. Yeah. So the principle, I think, of this introspective meditation that Master Hakuin is giving is about coming down, isn't it? Coming down into the body. All this koan stuff and the word play, which is very powerful practice, working one aspect of ourselves, needs the complement of something lower, something broader, a container. And that's what he gets from Master Hakuin's teaching. So bringing energy down from just being in the head and overstimulated. Remember this? So coming down from that to something more balanced. And the melting butter thing really helps him to do that. So just let that melt. So one thing I think with our approach to meditation here at the Buddhist Center is that we are trying to encourage that kind of grounding and settling. So Lalitharatna is a great example of somebody who, I always love Lalitharatna's body scans. It's like having a warm bath or something, just so enjoyable the way he leads us in it. So it's not anything special that you have to go up a mountain to Japan for. In a sense, it's here, but can we come more and more into our bodily experience in a way that's going to be helpful? So that's one of the things we're trying to encourage when we teach meditation here. But that's not easy. Like if we come to the center and we're up here and on kind of high alert and very stimulated, it can be quite a jump to then come into a space like this, close our eyes, and be there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, doing a meditation practice. We might come to the center down here and a bit low and a bit stuck. And again, it's hard to come up into that space where we can sit for 40 minutes in meditation. Like, I find that hard after many, many years of doing that. And one of the things that makes it hard is that we live in a city. We live in a city that's very stimulating. So I can hear it now, like engines. The city, just going out in the city, demands something of us energetically. Yeah. Meditation can help us with that, but we need intelligent ways of kind of bridging the gap between long periods of meditation and being out and being highly stimulated. Or modern life, city life, can make us feel a bit stuck. In a way, it's a reaction, isn't it, to overstimulation, is also just to kind of close down and shut down. And just ask yourself now, like, what do we do in response to those times where we feel there's just too much stimulation? What do we do in those times where we just want to kind of flop and close everything out? So I've been noticing, it's kind of embarrassing, but I'll say it anyway. So when I'm in that kind of state of overstimulation, sometimes what I want to do just to resource myself is look at my phone and scroll on my phone. I'm not alone, am I? Scrolling. And in a curious kind of way, I think the scrolling is an attempt to get down. Like, it's like I want to get down there, but for some reason I'm looking for it in there. It's kind of weird. Yeah. And what it ends up doing is creating more stimulation. The other thing I do is eat. And it's so embarrassing, isn't it? So we have some granola at home in a jar. And it's that I go to. Just dry. Like, and it's so dry, can't really chew it. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But it's the sugar. It's the sugar. But again, I think in a curious way, what I want to do is come down. So I'm swallowing the food. Maybe I can even feel it going down. But it's sugar. So it makes this happen. There's a whole rush going on. So I'm trying to educate myself to find other ways to feel resourced and grounded at times when that's what I need. When I'm either too high or too low, what will be a helpful way of doing it? And like I say, it's embarrassing to say, I've been a practicing Buddhist for 15 years, and I still go to these things. But I think it's just part of the process, is gradually unhooking from those habits and finding more helpful ones. Meditation has been a huge help. But like I say, sometimes it's a leap to go from a state like that to 40 minutes of just sitting on my own still. So what can we do to kind of make those little bridges? What can we learn from Master Hakuin and this melting butter thing that helps us just bridge the gap so it's more seamless? Because Hakuin's problem was he could have great insights, he could see how things really are, but then he would forget about it. So we can have good meditations, we can kind of force ourselves into really good states, but then we lose it when we're on the U-Bahn or whatever, or when we're with our partner and we have an argument. We kind of lost the perspective. So how can we bridge the gap a little bit is my current theme, if you like. So one thing is this thing we did at the beginning. Just reminding myself that whatever I'm doing, wherever I am, I always have the option of just, like now I'm giving a talk, but I could just, there's nothing to stop me, is there? Just looking around. I'm even going to dare to do this, right? And you can dare, if you like, just to turn around or look over your shoulders and just see what else is going on, kind of in the space. And just notice what happens in your body as you give yourself permission just to look around and not be so involved in listening to the talk and what I have to say. What does it do? What do you notice? So what I notice myself there is some relief, like just a break. I notice some shadows around the room which are beautiful actually. Look at that, it's like a piece of art at the back of the room. Sorry to bring attention to the people on the back row. And then I notice there's emotion there. Quite intense emotion there that I'm overriding so that I can speak to you. But when I stop like that, something more of my emotional life becomes noticeable. Yeah. So if we had longer, I would ask you what you noticed, but just make a mental note what you notice. So that is so simple, isn't it? All you have to do occasionally is just look around, come away from the phone, come away from the granola, or the computer, or whatever it is that we're doing. Just give yourself a little break for 30 seconds, and something else can happen. I learned that on a workshop with a couple of other members of our order. And it was a 6-hour workshop on Zoom on a Sunday night. And it started, I think, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and ended at 9 o'clock at night. And I'd signed up for it, but I was dreading it. Like 6 hours on Zoom at night before Monday when I had to get up. By the end of the 6 hours, because they'd kept getting us to do this thing, I felt great. Like I actually felt my energy was there and available, and that you two were there as well, and we all had a similar experience. So try it. Just try that. And especially try that when you sit down to meditate at home. Because we can so easily go from whatever we've been doing to now I've got to meditate, I find my perfect position or my meditation position. But I haven't actually just said to myself, okay, I'm here now, it's different, so let me just take in what it's like. And it immediately can create more of a sense of calm within our whole system. Okay, let's try one more. Yeah. So this one, bit different. So taking one hand, it can be either hand, and just creating an L shape with your thumb and your first finger there. And just tucking that underneath the armpit of the other arm. And then taking this hand, the other hand, putting that on the upper arm of the other arm. Yeah. And then we're just going to sit like this for a while. Yeah. And again, just notice, what does this do in your body? What do you notice? What happens? So what does this create space for? And if it gets too much or anything, you can just stop as well, that's fine. Or you can do the looking around if that's making it more helpful. Okay, and then just resting the arms back down. So I just felt myself take a deeper breath when I took the hands away, so that's one physical change. It's a bit like giving yourself a hug, isn't it, that one? There's something, it gets a bit more here for me. So if these things help, give them a go, and if they help, then why not do them? And if they don't, do other things. Let's just try one more, because we've still got a few more minutes. So with this one, we're just going to take a hand again, and just place it on the chest. So it could be, in fact, just notice, where does the hand want to go? So there's no right position. Don't worry about getting it right, but where on your chest does it feel like is the right place for the hand to be? Could be slightly higher than the center, could be lower. Don't look at me for a good example, because I've got a microphone on, so I'm having to work around that. But for you, you can just find, where's the place that the hand wants to be there. And then the other hand, place that just under the belly button, the lower belly. And again, where does that hand want to be comfortable? What do we notice in the body with this contact around the heart and the belly? And any thoughts that arise or ideas, they're fine, just whatever's coming up is allowed. And it might be that there are subtle changes going on in the body, so the hands might need to move slightly. It's fine, we're not stuck in one position. And then just releasing and bringing the hands away. So something, I don't think it's just because it's lunchtime, but something in my digestive tract just did a happy sound. Probably it's picking it up on the microphone. So yeah, I hope you noticed. I'm sure you noticed something, but yeah, give that one a try as well. Just what's it like to have some physical contact, particularly in this part of the body where the heart is there, the emotion is there, the guts, the belly. It's more of our emotional center. And just a way of helping us get a bit more in touch with ourselves. It's not meditation, it's quite simple, but I think it can have quite an effect, particularly, as I said, within this transition between everyday activity and meditative life. So just to finish, let's go back to the beginning and just put a hand up at the shoulder level. And remember our scale, so anything above the shoulder level is excitation and alertness, busyness. Anything below is a kind of sinking dullness. And now, having been sat here for a while and doing those exercises, just notice again, where are you at? Where would you place yourself on that scale? Maybe that changes as we tune in again. Okay, and then just letting the hands drop. So the happy ending of Hakuin's story is that he goes away from the cave, finds his way back down. He integrates these introspective meditation techniques from Master Hakuin into his practice, into his life in the monastery. And he keeps having further breakthroughs, but this time it's different because he's able to hold them and contain them. And that makes him also be able to express to other people how they can help themselves and how they can reach an understanding. So he became a great master with a lot of disciples, students, whatever we choose to call them, who've kept alive some of those practices. And although we're not a Japanese Zen tradition, there's something of that tradition that has influenced how we approach things. So yeah, I'd just like to dedicate the talk to Hakuin and his drive and ambition and pushing himself, which was not necessarily a mistake. All the way up the mountain he pushed, but he was able to come down from the mountain and give something else that would help people who were also on the wheel of life, going round and round, and ways to break their habitual patterns. And hopefully these little things that we've dropped in today can help us all to follow in his footsteps. Yeah. So I'll finish there. Thank you.